Welcome back to Political Decency Podcast. This is episode 3, January 13th, 2025. Today's podcast will be slightly different. We are going to focus on a little city in Oklahoma. Norman, Oklahoma is the third largest city in the state of Oklahoma with a population of 128,000 people. It is the most populous city and county seat of Cleveland County and the second most populous city in the Oklahoma City metro area. The city was formally incorporated on May 13th, 1891. Norman was prominent because of its higher education and related research industries, as it's home to the University of Oklahoma, the largest university in the state, with nearly 32,000 students enrolled. Norman also has the National Weather Center, which houses a unique collection of university, state, federal, and private sector organizations that work together to improve the understanding of events related to the Earth's atmosphere. Norman also lies within Tornado Alley, a geographic region somewhat known for frequent and intense tornadic activity. The mayor of Norman is Larry Hakila. Larry is a Republican, even though he's holding a nonpartisan position. He's also a nightmare for the citizens of Norman. There are two major, and I mean major, controversial taxpayer fund projects for Norman. They are the Turnpike extensions and the University North Park Entertainment District. Mayor Hakila is a rogue government official who is acting against the citizens' best interest and is rubber stamping to crackpot initiatives. Both of these initiatives are the Turnpike and the University North Park Entertainment District. The Norman City Council voted to approve the University North Park Entertainment District in a split of 5-4. Actually, it was 4-4. And essentially the tie-breaking vote was cast by Mayor Hakila. The University North Park Entertainment District project is a $1 billion taxpayer-funded program, again, using tax increment financing, TIF, districts, one that relies on sales tax and other property taxes. So the citizens of Norman are paying for this, as well as anybody else who visits the city. But Cynthia Rogers, an OU economics professor, said in an interview with OU Daily that such a contentious and large spending program should be voted on by the public. She's quoted as saying, "You get to vote on everything else that uses tax dollars, such as sales taxes, new sales, so on," she said. She goes on to say this use of things called taxes that we vote on and diverting it to something that we didn't vote on is not appropriate. Rogers also said the property taxes that TIF collects are intended to fund public schools. The most important things for families who are moving to Norman, they look at schools, she said. That's the first thing they look at. I doubt they're looking at things like, do you have a new arena? Norman resident Andrew Reisner said he appreciates the walkability and high-density housing the project creates, or is anticipated to create. But he doesn't agree with how the project is funded. The funding mechanism severely impacts both our short-term fiscal stability and our long-term ability to invest elsewhere, he said. A lot of those things look really neat, but they are just tied intimately to the way of funding this, Reisner said. As for the proposed Turnpike extension, during a city council study session regarding the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, OTA, their desire to build a 59-mile toll roads, two of them, through central Norman, one going north and south and one going east and west. It took a shocking turn when Mayor Hakila told city council members they risked criminal prosecution if they opposed OTA's Turnpike plans. Mayor Hakila's legal conclusions are based on his belief that OTA's Access Oklahoma Turnpike building plan is a law that has been introduced to and passed by the Oklahoma legislature, and then signed into law by Governor Stitt. As such, Access Oklahoma law carries the same authority as the Constitution of the United States of America, making it, along with the U.S. Constitution, the supreme law of the land. The legislative bodies passed the Access Oklahoma plan, and Governor Stitt signed it into law, Mayor Hakila said. Reading from a prepared statement, he is quoted, "We as council members swore an oath of office. That oath obligates us to follow laws in the state of Oklahoma. Access Oklahoma is the law, whether we like it or not. By choosing to disobey the law," Hakila declared, "we hold ourselves above the law, and individuals on this council expose themselves and the city to legal consequences that can have profound personal and professional implications." His comments were flabbergasting, said one council member. "I was left scratching my head," another council member said. Another council member called on the mayor's allegations possibly the most damaging thing I've seen an official do to the public's trust in its leadership. Fact-checking reveals that the mayor's claims are false. Access Oklahoma is a turnpike building plan started by Governor Stitt and the OTA. It has never been a proposed law that the state legislature voted on and passed. It was never signed into law by Governor Stitt. Claims that council members who don't support turnpikes are risking prosecution, and the OTA's Access Oklahoma plan is on par with the U.S. Constitution as the law of the land, are absolutely false. After threatening the council with jail time, Hakila continued with a disjointed and confused diatribe how eminent domain can never be challenged, that the OTA is above all laws and regulations requiring environmental protections, that the city of Norman is helpless in the face of superior power of the state of Oklahoma, and has no right to challenge anything state agencies want to do. That is wrong to think highways and bridges could pollute water sources like Lake Thunderbird. That advanced planning to mitigate environmental hazards is wrong. That the OTA should never be required to conduct preventative NEPA-level environmental impact statements, and Norman has no business asking them to do so. All false and baseless positions taken by the mayor in his desire to force the city of Norman to join him in groveling before and submitting to the greed and power of the OTA. Within this preamble, intended to be part of a resolution council is working on to deal with the OTA, was read by the mayor immediately after presentations by geotechnical engineer Dr. Amy Serrato and attorney Robert Norman. Serrato and Norman had, at the invitation of the council, been given what many called a token 15-minute time slot to share their expertise regarding multiplicity of problems associated with OTA's $5 billion turnpike expansion project. Norman residents, the mayoral election is fast approaching, and you need to get organized and active rapidly to combat these threats that are posed by the current rogue and unstable Mayor Hakila. Hakila is being challenged by Stephen Tyler Holman. Stephen is a progressive voice who we support. Election day is coming fast. It's on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Voter registration deadline, if you aren't currently registered, is January 17th, 2025. So do not miss this important vote. Again, Norman residents, this mayor is rubber stamping the OTA, which again is not a government agency. It is a private entity that works on behalf of the state. Let's move on to another subject. Norman is also the home to newly elected Republican State Senator Lisa Standridge. In an opening salvo of bills that are waging war of cruelty on the poor, Standridge wrote, in what I should more appropriately name her, Cruella de Vil, introduces a bill that will make it illegal for communities to provide aid to the homeless. Cruella's bill would make it illegal for all cities in the state, except Oklahoma City and Tulsa, to provide shelters or outreach for homeless citizens, and would also require them to immediately end any existing programs. As News 4 reports, quoting, Oklahoma Senate Bill 484, introduced and authored by newly elected Senator Lisa Standridge, Republican from Norman, would ban all cities in Oklahoma with fewer than 300,000 residents from using city resources to operate homeless shelters or perform homeless outreach. Only Oklahoma City and Tulsa have more than 300,000 residents, meaning if SB 484 were to pass, it would apply to every city in this state except Oklahoma City and Tulsa. It is a vaguely written bill by the party of small government to impose big government restrictions on citizens' rights, or on churches' rights for that matter, who collaborate with the city or town to provide assistance to the homeless and the poor. Is the next step by Cruella Standridge to impose a law that will make it illegal for citizens to live in Oklahoma who do not have a job? Well, that would be consistent with Governor Kevin Stitt's Classroom to Careers graduation requirement, called Classroom to Careers graduation requirement, to prevent citizens from living in Oklahoma who do not have a great job. I want every kid ready for a career, Stitt said. He goes on quoting, and so I'm thinking about even making it a requirement to graduate from Oklahoma high schools. You've got to either be accepted to college, you have to be accepted to a career tech, or you have to be going into the Army. You have to have some kind of plan post-graduation to go get a great job. This begs the question, what is a great job? Does this mandate eliminate farm and ranch kids from staying on the farm or ranch to work? Does this mandate eliminate a kid from pursuing amateur athletics? Does this mandate eliminate a kid from working a minimum wage job for a year or two before deciding and saving money on their career path and going back to school? We sincerely hope that you enjoyed this episode of Political Decency Project, because this is crazy, folks. This is completely out of line with normal civil conversation, and it's led by our Republican legislature and Republicans within the state. We thank you for taking the time to listen to our Political Decency Project podcast. Please stay tuned for more episodes of Political Decency Project. This episode of Political Decency Project podcast is brought to you by VeteransAgainstFascism.com. VAF is a group of veterans whose mission is to defeat fascism and fascist politicians in the United States of America. Email them at infoveteransagainstfascism.com. Help us in our mission. Donate today by going to VeteransAgainstFascism.com. Support US.